Welcome to Knit to Cultivate to. This is primarily a fiber arts podcast, but I get up to all kinds of shenanigans as I homeschool my kids. My name is Emily Wood, and I live in Midland, Michigan with my husband Colin and my son Elias, who's in 5th grade, and my daughter Stella, who is in 1st grade. Thank you so much for coming back. I think for our 3rd episode, we are now double subscribers, and I owe that to the wonderful men at Needles at the Ready, Kevin and Ray, who mentioned the podcast, and I got some comments below from people specifically coming from Needles at the Ready. So that was awesome. All right. So for the first episode, I had a giveaway, and the winner of the giveaway decided that she's really trying to work from stash and she's going to let someone else have it. So I redrew and have a new winner. Kathy Stevenson, if you can send me your address, you can email me at knit2cultivate2@gmail.com. You can send a message on the Facebook page. You can comment below, although that would be public, so I don't think you would want to do that. If you have a hard time getting a hold of me, let me know and I can definitely send you an email. All right, and then we have the first quarterly knit along, which is the hashtag cleanse your palette Cal, K-A-L. And this was just a pair of socks that have to be done by the end of March. I was about to say I got overwhelmed with holiday knitting, and I'm so full of it. I did no holiday knitting. The season, Christmas in a new house, lots of guests, I felt very overwhelmed after the holiday season. Kind of just needed a pattern to cleanse my palette, exactly as it's named, right? So pair of socks has to be done by the last day of March. It needs to have a 3-inch minimum cuff, so no ankle socks, just to make it fair for everybody. I got that from the wonderful Desert Vista Dyeworks. That's how she runs her self-striping monthly sock club, which I did for a while when I was in grad school. Vanilla socks were my go-to lecture knitting, so that my ADHD brain could actually pay attention. So that the way to, I guess I hadn't decided how to enter for the prize. So what I'm gonna do is make a short video that's just explaining the knit along and post it in here. And you can post your name and like the pattern you knit in the comments. And I think that's what I'm gonna do for the first one. I'm looking at other options. I know Ravelry is not accessible to everybody. So I'm trying to steer clear of that, but I haven't really found the solution for that yet. All right, let's see. Sorry, admin stuff. Oh, I got a question about my necklace. Let me show you guys this. I got asked if it's a fidget necklace because I keep just messing with it the whole time I'm recording. It isn't. It's knitting jewelry. So I will show you. It's really cute. This pops off and it's a yarn guide. And so then you pop your necklace back on while you're using it and then just slide it back on. However, I've never used this as intended, ever, ever, ever. I tried it a few times. It wasn't my thing. It's absolutely the only necklace I ever wear though. And it's absolutely for that reason. It makes a phenomenal fidget toy because it has a ring that you can play with that's separate. You can just, I don't know, it has a satisfying sound. Yeah, so I loved that question, but it's knitting jewelry. I can't remember who made it. It's on Etsy. I will include a link if their shop is still open. It was a few years ago, so I don't know if it's still open. And having said that, it made me, reading that comment made me realize how much I love this thing, and I'm gonna get a backup just in case, kind of like when you buy backups of your kids, like, oh, they're lovies when they're babies. Yeah, I'm gonna need a backup of this. Okay. Oh, the next thing we've got is Patreon. I posted my first Patreon content. And you know what? I posted it last night. And I was kicking myself. Neither of the projects came out as I wanted. I would have called them both failures if you asked me. But I learned a lot and I talked about a lot and I was very happy with the video. And I woke up to the nicest message in the world from one of my patrons. So I have to say, thank you so much. That was a wonderful thing to wake up to. Anyway, so I am going to show the finished skeins of yarn. I'm not going to talk about these. This is part of the additional Patreon content. And so I'll just give a quick rundown of what that is real quick. $5 a month, you get access to one monthly virtual knit night for an hour. So a Zoom call, knit night. I'll have like discussion topic points or things I'm thinking about in the fiber arts community or what I'm working on written down for conversation starters, because I have massive social anxiety, and this is what, over preparing for conversations is what helps me. So I'll have that so it's not awkward and nobody knows what to say. Although I will chat about anything. I love hearing about your obscure hobbies. So honestly, I feel like when I go to real life knit night, we very rarely are talking about yarn. We're always just talking about something off topic, and it's perfect. So I don't think it'll be a problem. But you get access to 1 hour a month virtual knit night and dye pot videos. I do one project a month. I take a picture, or I start from a picture, and I make a plan for my dye process and record it, and then talk about the things I did, what went wrong, what I learned. I give you exact quantities of things I'm using. I feel like I didn't do that this time. Again, I'm learning, and to be fair, I only started Patreon because I know that other podcasters said that they wish they had done that earlier if they ever decided to go towards teaching content. So I thought it would be easy, but I really expected it to be like a year down the road before I made a video for it, because anyway, I'm very blown away by the support I have gotten there and the community that's already starting. I'm gonna stop getting sappy though and move on. The first one, so this was a mistake. And you know what? I'm not talking about it because it's in the additional content. And it's not reskeined up, so it's a little tangled because I didn't do a ton of yarn. I like to reskein mine after I dye them. But I've got nice splashes of peony and this deep blue, and then a like ombre yellow. I have one skeined up. Again, I would call these failures. And I do love this one. It just wasn't what the plan was at all. At all. So nice blue. And you know what this makes me think of is like paint splatters. Like especially this one, because there are some pretty concentrated parts. I was trying a certain technique and ended up not liking it. The other one, which also was a total failure, trying to see which one was the one. Okay. I attempted salvaging and I really like it. I think I'm going to touch it up a little further, but it's these kind of jewel tones with a brown and a coral pink, but like with these grays in between and some blue. And again, this I need to touch up a little, I think. But overall, it's yarn I would use. I would never give this yarn away. It's just always disappointing when things don't work out the way you wanted. I struggle with that. I struggle with perfectionism. And so that is just a hard lesson for me, right? But I learned a lot. I have ideas for the future. I got a few ideas from one of my patrons too, which is awesome. I'm really excited to ask a few questions to her about her process. Yeah, so that's all I've got for admin stuff. I'm gonna move into finished objects. I have 2 of them this week. Okay, so my first finished object is the Novice Cardigan Mohair Edition by Petite Knits. It's about $7.15 US, and I left off last time having finished both sleeves. What I didn't notice is that I never changed needle sizes from the ribbing to the sleeve, to picking up stitches for the sleeves. So it doesn't look bad. You can totally not tell. The nature of the fabric, you can't tell. I love it. I love it. It's perfect. But the sleeves aren't as billowy as I had hoped them to be. However, I'm planning another one of these already. So I might try I don't know what the non-mohair edition is. I'm assuming there's another edition since mohair edition is specified. I will look. But maybe I'll try that version of it. I just love the sweater and the shape of the sleeves. So let's show it. I don't know if you can, how well you can see it. I will post a picture of it like laid out, but look at these buttons. Oh, let's see. So a little flower. Little flowers in mustard, tulips. This one is like polka dots with some branches behind it. A dark navy. Sorry, I'm gonna drop this. It's hanging. More pink flowers. They're kind of shiny, so it's reflecting off of them. A pale blue flower, another pink, and one more like dark. But they're really, really cute. They're little wooden buttons. They're by Red Poppy Crafting. They must be printed on. They kind of look like they were printed on. And so because of that, they're a little more pastel than I expected in person. I love them. They're perfect. I do not mind at all. And from a distance, you can't tell that they're like printed on at all. They look very nice. Ooh, I'll put it on with this outfit. This is actually the dress that I planned on wearing it with, which is why I'm not devastated that the sleeves are less billowy, because it's not really the look of the dress a regular cardigan would do. It's toasty, so it is not cold enough in my house because I keep the heater on a lot. But yeah, it's a cute cardigan, nice length sleeve, perfect length, and it still has a little bit of the billow, but a nice yoke. I love it. And if I wanted to, and I love the buttons, when I'm standing, they lay flat. They're having a hard time because my legs are crossed, like laying flat. But if I want to, theoretically, so it's a top-down cardigan or a yoked cardigan. So most of the sleeve stitches were on hold, so I could easily rip this out. I mean, I guess I could rip it out essentially even if I picked up all the stitches, but it's, I think, easier to rip it out. So if I really want to fix the sleeves, I can, but I do not think I'm going to. I really like this still as a cardigan. Is it what I planned? No, not quite, but it's actually better for the outfit that I wanted it for than if I had knit it correctly. So, happy mistake, and I'm really happy for it to be done. So I also will say this is finished in the sense that all the ends are woven in, everything's good, it hasn't been blocked. I don't know if I'm going to. I mean, honestly, like, there's no elasticity it's 2 strands of mohair held double. And so there's no elasticity in the yarn. So really when you're wet blocking, it helps the stitches even out for sure. But the mohair's really sticky. It's not gonna settle out like when you regularly block it. Like when you move these stitches around, they're stuck. They are very locked together. So it's really not going to change the shape of it that much. Yeah, so I might honestly just start wearing it. yeah, but I love it. I love it. And I was looking at Knit Picks mohair because, so this was $15 and I got 10 of them. So it was $150 for this sweater. And if you use Knit Picks, I want to say it was $7.99 a skein, and so it was going to be like 80 bucks for the sweater. So I think what I'll do is eventually knit another one in the Knit Picks mohair with bigger sleeves, and that'll be one that'll be really cute with like a pair of jeans, like high-waisted jeans, but like the billowy sleeves. This is a long dress. It's kind of one of those bag dresses that is narrower at the end. It's like 3/4 of the length down, but it's a little narrower at the end, but billows out at the hips. So I think the tighter fit is going to be better. All right, and so my last finished object is Pink Sky at Night by Margaret Stoffager, which is about $4.50 US. And I left off with 12 more pattern rows, so I only had a little bit left. I actually ended up having yarn left over and still do. I probably could have done more. So for the top row, you really were only supposed to do about half of those waves. And I had enough yarn, so I did the second repeat, which is what happens down here. You have 2 full repeats there and then down at the bottom. So it actually ends up matching now instead of being a little off. I still could have gone, but I liked the idea of, I didn't want to go into 2-2 brioche and then just have the 2-2 at top before binding off. Like I felt like that might look a little weird. I liked the idea of binding off after the waves. So this was just a simple 2-2 brioche with a handful of you use a 1 brioche increase and 2 different brioche decreases, and that's it. So pretty straightforward, basic beginner brioche project in my opinion. It's an asymmetrical shawl, so you start at the bottom here and increase only on one side of it. And so I'm not going to take any credit for this because this is all Andrea Mowry. She shows you how she wears her shawls. And so for asymmetrical shawls, she likes to take that point and offset it. It will not be worn with this dress. And offset it, or like even drape it a little over her shoulder like that, which, oh, I really like. Oh, that's super cute. I just unpinned this from my blocking mat. I haven't even put it on. Oh, I steam blocked it, which I love. Oh, I've never steam blocked brioche before. Brioche, like lace and brioche, if you've only ever wet blocked, I highly encourage you to steam block it. I geek out over this every single time. I also should say I have a steamer that can be held on its side so that the water doesn't leak, but it was really cheap on Amazon. You can literally see the stitches relaxing and moving, and I think this project, the brioche, was the one that I've been able to visibly see yarn moving like it's alive in this pattern. Like this was the one that had the most dramatic visual. I mean, I always think it looks like, yeah, like a living project, right? Like it's breathing. It's so cool, super cool. But anyway, I really like this, and I'm thinking, I like how I knit this and had no outfit for it, but have a plan for the outfit. You know, just a pair of black jeggings or a pair of jeans and like a black bomber jacket with a black tank top or t-shirt under it. And I think it'll be really cute, but I haven't even remotely looked for that purchase at all. So this was a project where I just got the yarn and thought, oh, I have to have this. So, all right. Okay, so I also want to apologize. I keep looking to the side. I'm trying a different thing with my notes on my computer over here. So I hope it's not too big of a deal. I don't think it will be. I am knitting Sweetums by Caarin. Corinne. I'm not positive how to pronounce that. It's about $7 US. I hadn't even started this. I cast this on since the last episode and it's going fast. I cast this on, so today is Friday, a week and 2 days ago, right before Wednesday knit night, because I was just at the cables and realized, why did you bring cables and nothing else to knit night? That was silly and arrogant, but I did. Okay, so it's a baby sweater and I have a back panel. Did I say what I was using? I don't think I did. I'm using Knit Picks Hawthorne DK that I dyed using aubergine. Is that I don't even think that's how you say it. I'll look up pronunciation. That I dyed, I think this was Dharma acid dye. And it's a little tonal. Yeah, and at first I was really nervous. This is upside down. At first I was really nervous because it really seemed to hide the cable pattern. Oh, I love it. And it is a little hidden. It's hard to get on camera, but you can definitely tell the pattern. Maybe it'll be easier to stretch it a little this way. Oh yeah. Oh, it's so cute. I love it so much. I have an error. I was so happy and proud of myself because I notice all the details people don't notice. And like if I'm in a store and I see someone with a commercial sweater that's a chunkier yarn, like I'm analyzing stitches on, like, absolutely. But here you can see I did the opposite side, like 2 rows. I'm bummed. I think I can fix it. I'm gonna try fixing it like duplicate stitch, kind of. I was already bound off when I noticed it, or I would have fixed it. But it's the only place, and it's honestly not that noticeable. No one's gonna really pay attention to it. But I also have a panel done. I have the left front panel. So this is a seamed sweater. I should have said that. And this is the left front panel. This is the underarm portion, which I really like. It was like a twisted rib on the first row and then purled all the way across. So it created a nice little flexible, that's not the word I'm looking for, like bouncy edge that'll be nice, like as they grow into the sweater. I'll have to pick up a button band still after seaming, but it's really cute. And then I'm on the right front. I just got into the cable section and this didn't take long. Once I got the hang of the pattern, it went really quickly for me. I don't think that it's that I'm good at knitting. I think that I'm really good at charts. So like charted knitting is super easy for me. My brain, I studied mathematics. This doesn't seem odd to me or something that should surprise somebody. My brain kind of works this way, but like seeing a chart with symbols, reading the symbols and interpreting that into what I'm doing is way easier for my brain than words. Like I hate written patterns. Absolutely. I love a chart. And even when I think about as I'm like making progress on something, it's kind of like I think of a progress bar in my head. Like, okay, when I think of what three-quarters of the way complete is, I'm thinking of a progress bar that's like 3/4 of the way complete. I don't know. My brain is silly sometimes. But yeah, so it's fast for me, I think, because I'm really fast with charts, or I'm faster with charts. But yeah, I really, really love it. This baby is not going to be born until, I think it's June, not July. I'm pretty sure it's June. But this is it's a 12 to 20, it's the 12-month size. I think it's 12 to 24, but that seems like weird range. Usually it's 12 to 18 months, but I think it's 12 to 24 months. And they live in Minnesota, so they will get lots of use out of a heavy baby sweater. And it's a dense yarn. It's a, Knit Picks is a 2-ply, which, and it's pretty dense. I would say it's like worsted spun. There's not a lot of air in it. It's not very bouncy. So it's got a lot of heft to it, I feel. So I think it'll be a nice outerwear barrier with like a nice turtleneck under it. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so my next project is the Winter Rose Socks by Helen Stewart, and that's about $6.37 US. These are my knit-along socks that I cast on for my Cleanse Your Palette. Yeah, I was working on the first one last time, but I'm finished with one. They're so cute. Oh, I should have grabbed sock blockers. Kind of bummed I didn't, but I'm a little crunched on time today. My husband has a concert tonight. He is a professor at Saginaw Valley State University, a music professor. He's the director of jazz studies, and he has a faculty concert tonight. So we're really excited. We are not going to go in person, not because of exposure or anything that you probably assume. It is just because he has to go so early that hanging out on campus with kids would be awful, and it's being streamed so I can watch it on a big screen TV instead, with my dad. He's coming in town, which I'm excited about, and we're gonna have an adult beverage while we watch the concert, which is not allowed at the actual concert apparently. Okay. So yeah, I love this sock. It's like a cool textured sock. I probably could have just gone to get the sock blockers, come back up, re-recorded this instead of telling you a side story. I probably wasted more time. But yeah, it's a twisted rib, which really looks nice with, which isn't always my favorite. I like a regular rib, but twisted rib is nice with the lace pattern. I love this. It's really hard to see. And I haven't blocked this because I only have one done. Regular toe. The foot, oh, it's so soft, so soft. I'm gonna put the name of the yarn up here. I feel awful that this is the third time I have not talked about the yarn, and we'll have to do this, but it's a super fine merino blend by lowrey, and I did find the ball band this time. Last time I didn't have the ball band, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I love it. This emerald, it's perfect. I'm gonna wear them with my short dark brown boots. They're gonna be amazing. And so you're probably thinking that I thought this was supposed to cleanse your palette. It was supposed to be like a vanilla pattern that didn't take brain space. Wasn't that the entire point? Yes. So this pattern actually is pretty vanilla. It has 2 pattern rows and then 3 straight rows. So you have a setup row. There is like your straight rows have some purls in it, but you just follow the pattern. So it's straight and you don't have to think about it. So out of 5 rows, there's only 2 rows you really have to kind of think, and you don't have to think that much. So it's, I should say that it's not a lot for me to keep up with. That's enough that I feel like I can take this to knit night, knit 2 rows and like just pause, do those harder rows, and then get back to the vanilla knitting. And it went really quickly. But yeah, I love this yarn. Love it for socks. I don't know how it'll hold up, but it's perfect. I love it. So again, I'm going to put a video up, a separate video just for this quarterly knit along. So knit a pair of socks, because there's only 60 people here, guys. You can get a prize. I'm going to give something away. Also, I meant to put this in there. I will give away a skein of yarn whenever we hit 100 subscribers. So I will also do that, but that's unrelated to the knit along. It just made me think of it. All right, so my last work in progress right now, knitting wise, is the Rose City Rollers by Mary Catherine Briner. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and these are just my go-to. Here, I've got one of them. I love self-striping yarn. I think I mentioned this when I was in grad school, my go-to pattern and like project was a pair of vanilla socks. And I got into self-striping yarn so I wouldn't have to count rows when I was in classes. And then I got into Felici, Knit Picks Felici, which is amazing and soft and wonderful and makes fantastic socks. So I always, every time they come out with new colors, I get at minimum a skein of all the ones I like. And then like if I love one, I'll get 2 skeins of it so I can get a full pair of socks. But typically what I do is I have child-sized feet and I can get a pair of ankle socks out of 50 grams skein, as long as I don't try to match up the stripes. As long as they're fraternal stripe patterns, then it works. But it's just a little jelly roll cuff, and they're heel flap and gusset socks. Very easy pattern. I have this pattern memorized. This is my go-to vanilla sock. I love these because I wear a lot of leggings at home, which is when I'm like wearing socks. And so they're nice and short and they don't go up over my leggings, which is a problem because I am a super short individual. And so my leggings are bunched up at my ankles and socks never fit well over them because I'm short. And I know I could hem them, and I do buy shorts options when I can, but that's not always a purchasing option. Yeah, so I'm obsessed with this colorway. And it's exactly the same colors as the one of the next projects I want to work on and I'm dyeing yarn for. It's going to be like a tangerine orange, like a sherbet orange, a yellow, a pale pink, a pale like mint, or that's more of like a pale blue. It's not like a mint. So I'm loving it. And I cannot remember for the life of me what colorway this is, so I'll add it to the top, but it is Knit Picks Felici. Yep. And so I got that started. It's a good go grab project for when I'm reading. I like to knit when I read, and I have it over here. I'll show you a book stand. It's a nice little book stand, and it just sits upright, and you can use it like a tablet stand, or it has these nice little pegs so that when you're reading a book, it holds your book open for you, which is helpful when I'm knitting. Yeah, so I use this to hold my book up, and I'll knit while I read. And so this is a good vanilla pattern, and I use this same pattern for my kids. I just knit the small size. So there are 3 sizes. I knit the medium size. I'm a very tight knitter. So I knit the medium size, which is 64 stitches. And then I knit the next size down for the kids. And I say this like I've done it a lot. I've knit 2 pairs of kids socks. It's just, I don't knit for my kids because they grow out of it so quickly. I like to use expensive fancy yarn that they're not going to care about. So they don't get a lot of hand knits. Yeah. All right, so this section I'm just gonna like touch real quick. I have not touched any of my spinning, even though I have a new wheel, which is funny. I've been reading this week, which is different. It also was one of those weeks where I signed up for more than I realized I signed up for. So part of that was that I did recording days this week for Patreon content. So that would have been Tuesday. I recorded most of the day, throughout the day, and then edited Wednesday. And then yesterday we had a play date with our neighbors, and then I'm recording today. So it was just a really busy week. And there's another piece of information. I started a co-op, and I'm going to talk about that in the homeschool section. But I was gonna also dye an unmercerized cotton warp that I found for weaving. And I have the dyes that I'm gonna use. I was ready to go. I was trying to buy soda ash in store, which is already hard enough to buy, and I should have remembered that, but I didn't. And that it's usually something you can find in store in pool supplies. Well, it's not pool season in Michigan. It's pretty gross out. We got some snow last night. I'm actually kind of bummed. I told my kids for like 3 days that I would take them ice skating this morning, and the ice rink now has snow on it. But we've been waiting for ice skates for like 4 weeks, so of course that happened. But it's okay. They're pretty flexible kids, so they're happily playing. So I didn't get to do that. I did, however, go ahead and just order it on Amazon, and I got the soda ash in the mail. So I definitely plan on, at minimum, dyeing the warp this in this next 2-week period. And I'm excited about that. That's kind of fun. You know, I've been dyeing, and so my loom is currently in a 3-season sunroom, and it's not attached to any of the HVAC systems, so it's very, very cold in there. And it's fine. It's all the windows are closed, but it's my favorite room of our house in the summer. We have a seating area in that room with double doors, and then in the summer I can open it up and open there are 11 windows in there, and I can open all the windows, and it's just nice, and then the house is all nice and airy. But my loom is out there, and I just have dreams of, you know, the kids running around in the backyard and me doing my weaving in the sunlight, and yeah, I know, it's all sounds very magical, right? So it's living up there, so I'm not currently using it, but I am really excited to get something on the loom. But maybe the winter, as I figure out what living through real winters is like, maybe the winter is the time where I dye warps and wefts, and then plan and do more planning for when it's warm and when I actually want to be sitting at my loom. So I've been thinking through that, and that's kind of a weird thing. It seems like we micromanage our life. We do a lot. Being neurodivergent, we need to do that to function at all. So but I do a lot of planning. Like, I have a lot of my next projects planned, and I'm working through that because I just kept running into the problem where I'd obsessively work on a project and then not have the next thing queued up and ready to go. So I'm getting better at that and getting a little bit better of a system. And that kind of, for me, means more planning and thought about what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm really excited to do that. I said that I haven't done any spinning. I'm going to do some spinning this week. I'll actually probably do some spinning this weekend while my dad's here. You know what? I might do some spinning during our concert. And that's one thing I will say. My sister, who knows absolutely nothing about spinning, my wheel came when they were in town. So of course I spent like the first 2 hours that they were here putting it together. I was like, see you guys later. I have stuff to do. I mean, they were in the room with me. It's fine. But I'm looking at my wheel too. I should be looking at the camera. It's so quiet. It's so quiet. I had a Kromsky Fantasia, and I didn't think it was loud, but compared to the Matchless, it's totally different. It's so soft, smooth, quiet. Oh, it's amazing. So I do have plans for that. Okay, so the next thing I've been thinking about lately is my garden plans for this year. What we're gonna do, and this is our first, so we moved in June. So I had seeds started and some plants going in Ohio, but we were in a rental for a year. We were in a rental before the year period, but we were in a new rental for this last year in Ohio. We kind of were in a transition year before coming here. So I didn't have a lot, and I only did things with like early growing seasons for that reason. But But this year we get to have a real outdoor garden, and I am going to have garden beds in my front yard. We haven't built them yet. I've been looking at the plans and what I want to do, but I started building some chairs this summer, and I have the 2 armrests done. I'll add a picture. They're kind of cool. And so now I need to connect those. The armrests actually are like the base, and then the chair seat comes off the armrest, and then the back as well. So I need to attach all that together, but it just got to the point where I don't want to bundle up and be outside in working on that stuff. Like, I want to do that stuff when it's nice outside, and I'm not in a hurry because they're going to be outdoor chairs for my front porch. But when I was planning this project, I discovered colored wood stain, like pastel pink and mint. Can you tell those are my colors from my outfit and my couch being mint? Literally, this is like everywhere in my house. I should say the main color of my house and decor is like a navy with the pops of pastel. And so the color on the outside of my house right now is more of a brighter blue, but it's gonna be going away. And I want it to be navy. And so the idea behind it is the house is brick and navy. And then the garden beds are going to be pastel colors. So I will have a pink, I'll have a mint, I'll have a pale blue, or whatever I decide on. Really excited. And they'll be in the front yard because that's, we get some good sun out there. I'm also really excited about that. So then I looked at starting my garden planning for the year. Like, what are we going to grow this year? How many beds should we build? Like, reel it in, Emily, because every time I tell my husband it's almost time to start garden planning, he's like, all right, just keep it reasonable. I probably didn't. So the first thing I did was I bought an apple tree. I got it from fastgrowingtrees.com. It's a place that will grow trees for a few years, so you get them at fruit-bearing age. You can buy different sizes of trees, so and at different levels of maturity too. So I got an apple tree, and they use some grafting techniques. And so this apple tree in particular, which has really good reviews, although I know that can be hit or miss, right? It's a grafting technique, so there should be 5 species of apples from this tree. I know Fiji, Honey Delicious, no, Honey Crisp is what I meant. Honey Crisp, Fiji, and 3 others. I don't remember. But the reason they do that is so that you have longer growing seasons. So we should have apples from August to the end of October, and all in one tree. And it's a really cool method. I looked into it. I don't know a ton about it. I'm not a tree expert by any means, but I was interested in it. So we got that, and then I also got 2 1-quart raspberry bushes that should be ready. They will ship. They won't ship until the end of March. They ship it to you based on when it should be safe for your zip code, which I thought was genius, or for the region that you're in. And I have so many plans for that website. Like, if the trees are good and we have a good experience, the tree and bushes are good and have a good experience, I have so many on my wish list. So many fruit trees on my wish list. And we have I think I said this, a strip between the houses that are backed up. So our yard and then the neighbor behind that, the street behind it, there is a whole strip of woods. So like right now I can see the neighbor's house. That's at least the size of our backyard. So like right now I can see my neighbor's house, but I can't really see it too much in the summer. You can, but not a ton. It's very nice. But I'm gonna plant them along the back, I think. I'm not positive yet. But I want a few different fruit trees. So that was exciting. And then another really cool thing about our library is we have a seed library. So you go, I'll show a picture of one of them. You just go, it looks like it's in like those old, like the card system, right? But they're like little envelopes of seeds, and you can go you can go get seeds for free, absolutely free. And the only thing they request is, hey, bring your seeds that you harvest back to replenish the seeds that you took. Phenomenal system. So I thought, why not look at what they have first and see what I can plan around that to start with, because we are this year spending extra money because we're building garden beds. It's not just the seeds and the fertilizer and the things we need. Anyway, so from our library, and then I do as much as possible square foot gardening is what I enjoy. It's a good way to organize things in my brain. Again, the charts, I like a grid, right? That really works well for me. So I went through and did all that. I'm laughing because you guys are going to be like, didn't your husband say keep it reasonable? He did. But these are free seeds. Anyway, so I have zucchini, fatali peppers, King of the North peppers, which are a mild pepper, Swiss chard, lettuce, Aunt May's bib, butternut squash, Amish snap peas, pumpkins. I got this idea from Rachel from Wool and Spinning. She said that her kids grew their own pumpkins last year, and I'm obsessed with that idea, and so we're gonna try it. So I will get some of those: broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, moon and stars, watermelon, and then, gosh, if anybody knows me in real life, you're gonna laugh so hard when you see I'm so type A, right? Then I decided I know the garden bed diameters I'm going to do is 4 foot by 8 feet. And I looked into that. I have short arms, so I don't want it to be too wide that I can't reach or the kids can't reach. But then I made drawings and visuals to do my planning. What's gonna get planted by what? And again, I also haven't, this is the next step in my meticulous, ridiculous planning. So the next step is to see what plants are what planting season and how many beds I actually need to have, because I didn't do that when I was planning, so I actually don't know if I'll need 4 beds all at once. I probably don't. I'm sure you could be laughing, but I'm a dreamer, man. Like, I jump in, and I am also a really big planner, so this is just how I go about things. I jump in. But yeah, so that's our garden plan so far. And then I'm gonna go to the library next week with our neighbor. We don't have a plan. And I'll get the seeds so I can start deciding when certain seeds need to be I can start them indoors. So I'm really excited. I wouldn't say I'm hitting any winter blues. I'm actually feeling really good. We've been getting out of the house. We've been socializing way more than we have. It's been fantastic lately. But I did hit a point today where I was like, daydreaming about opening those double doors in the spring with the backyard and the view, and I cannot wait for beautiful weather. But we also are enjoying, I'm sorry, my phone keeps dying and I keep having to turn it off. Okay, so that's my garden plan so far. I'm sure that I was gonna do like 2 beds. Oh, I dream big, man. Okay, so for homeschool, I have a few things I want to talk about. The first thing is I bought one of these rolling carts. I'll put a picture in for our library book organization. So everybody gets a tier, and our library books and board games from the library and whatever we get all go in this nice little organized cart instead of in piles on my floor. And I love it. It's very cute. aesthetically pleasing and organized and off my floor. So I wanted to tell people about that. I don't know, I'm sure I didn't get that idea myself. I'm sure I have one of those cards. I literally just got the same one that I use. I put my e-spinner on it. I got that from Rachel from Wool and Spinning too. And it has my favorite murder poetry letter words all over it. I love it. But I think I looked up like library book storage and saw this, and it's kind of like a library cart at the library is. So I love that. That's worked really well for us. What else have we done lately? So we haven't done a ton of unit studies or anything like that. Our goal right now is socialization, building community, finding our friends in the area. This year is the first year we've lived here, and honestly, we were so caught up with being in a new area and figuring things out and moving that, and finally going on a few trips and visiting family, you know, we really didn't get out and meet people. And so then winter hit, and it was a rough patch at first. So we're finally doing more things like that. So our unit studies have taken a wayside. I do have a few cool books I picked up at the library that we're gonna work on in the next month, but I don't have like plans out in stone yet. We're very go with the flow people, and well, that's not true. I'm a heavy planner, but I'm pretty flexible about like when we get it done. Like, okay, I'm gonna plan this lesson, but like if we get it done over the span of 2 months, I don't care. So yeah. Then we started a local co-op, and I say we because there's a whole group of us. And I'm not gonna get into details on what led us to do that. But it is a super inclusive space for everyone in the Tri-City area, and the community needed that. So I'm really excited about it. It's not going to be a traditional co-op. It's going to be more like field trips, clubs, special unit studies and lessons, but not core subjects, which we had a first meetup about it. And I should point out that somebody made a comment about if there were any groups, and about like that, what we're talking about. And I basically just jumped in and decided, I'm sure no one's surprised since this is coming after the garden planning, but I just jumped in and was like, hey guys, this is within my wheelhouse. I used to be in PTA, like, let's do this. That would have been the day after I posted the second podcast, so 2 weeks ago almost. And there are already like over 30 members in the group. So, and these are homeschool families, so that's usually multiple kids. So the need was there, but we had a Zoom call that I hosted on a Wednesday of this week, just to kind of make sure everybody has an idea of what I was thinking originally and where everybody else stands. And there were 3 other people in the group. One of them I had met on Monday at our play group. But it was amazing. It was so wonderful. Everybody was on the same page. We all agreed on certain things. It brought up a conversation point though that I really want to talk about: accessibility in homeschooling, and recognizing that it's not accessible for everybody, and what we can do to make it more accessible for people. And the reason that this came up originally and you know, kind of on my radar, was we started talking about how we want to have weekly things that are free, that nobody has to pay for, that are like, we don't want dues, we don't want people to have to pay for a membership. We want it to be more like meetups, but like structured and actually like set times and locations. And because we're in the Tri-City area, we want to do one meetup in one and like alternate the 3 for each week to get, for again, easier accessibility. But we also want to do things like field trips and clubs and other things, and those things might cost money. And so that brought up the conversation of starting a fund for lower income families. And remember, my background is I had a baby at 22, and my husband and I were low-income parents, and for a long time. And so this is stuff that I feel very strongly about accessibility and access to education in homeschooling communities. Yeah. Anyway, so we started that conversation, and I need to look in. It's one of the topics that I want to look into more, accessibility in homeschooling. And I mean, it brought on conversations like homeschooling curriculum can be really expensive, and a lot of the free versions are Christian curriculum, which isn't for everybody, and that's fine. But and just talking about accessibility in homeschooling, and I think that is an open conversation that I hope continues, and that I am interested in learning more about. So yeah, that's kind of, oh, there's one more thing, but that's kind of what's been going on with us. We have really just been focusing on meeting people and finding and building community. The second thing is, I talked to Chevyrell from Chevyrell Stuff, and I sent her some stuff for her viewers and for herself, and she had a basket, it's like a sewn wrap, it's a coiled basket, sorry, a coiled basket that, I should have pulled these books out before because I'm gonna make a mess, but it's a coiled basket tutorial that she learned in school, in public school, years ago. And I had told her that we were gonna, I showed my kids the video, and we're gonna use it as a lesson, like as a spine for a lesson, as the hands-on part of the activity. And she was really sweet and wanted pictures, so I'm definitely gonna post pictures and I'll send some to her because that's really cute. But she has a fantastic tutorial, but I got some really cool books from the library about it. So I'm gonna grab those real quick. And this actually wasn't from it. Yeah, okay. So I only have 2 books about the baskets. But these are really cool. And I'm gonna feature them. I have not even planned at all. So the first one was Native American Survival Skills, how to make primitive tools and crafts from natural minerals. So a quick Google deep dive tells me that there is evidence of coiled baskets in both African and Native American history. And again, very, very, very short Google search. This was just a search enough to get me to find better keywords to find library books. But this book is fantastic. It's kind of like handwritten style, but it talks about all these primitive tools. In fact, I'm saying this and I have a friend that would be really into this that I need to send this to. Dog harnesses, how pack saddles are made, drums, turtle shells. Here, let's see, weaving, different woodland Indian bag weaving, and it shows the weaving structures and how they were woven. So this would be on a frame, and you tie, let's see, right here, down here, you tie them on a leader string, and then they hang down, and you do this finger weaving. That's so cool. It's not like a frame loom. So I totally want to try that. That's on our list. And this was used by Chippewa people, which is, I'm pretty sure, the Chippewa River is here. So I'm thinking it might be close. They might be a nation close by. So we need to look up the natives of our new location, obviously, because I don't have that information right now. But yeah, and then, this was cool. This shows how bowls were made, and this is something my kid wants to get into. Is he likes to whittle when we're camping, and so I want to get him some tools so he can make spoons and bowls. But you can see how they have the chunk of wood, and they show how they're cutting it out. And then down here they did the same thing with a bowl. That was cool. What else did I see? I don't know. This book was fantastic. Oh, here it is. And so the coiled grass baskets are similar, but instead of coiling, in this picture, you're coiling with other dried grass. In her version, your core would be a rope And instead of wrapping grass around grass, you would wrap a yarn, which is what we will do. But these beautiful coiled baskets. Yeah, anyway, this book I think is gonna have lots of cool stuff in it that we're gonna look at. And then this book is really cool too. The Basket Maker's Art, Contemporary Baskets and Their Makers. Okay, so this one I was like out on a limb, but there are so many textile options. I am obsessed. So let's see, there are some people that make baskets out of coiled clay. And so this is like a contemporary artist. Let's see. I didn't think about this. Again, I'm learning, guys. Sorry, this is awkward. I'm really geeking out about these though, because I'm so excited to utilize these. Oh my gosh, look at this. Look at these. And these are more like upside down TP versions of what hers look like, but they're like coiled. Oh, they're so cool. And I have a ton of weaving yarn. And so I think we can make it look kind of like this. 8-2 cotton and in a ton of colors. Oh, but then there are some cool mixed media ones. It's really a cool book. And there were quite a few fabric. This almost looks, oh, this is copper wire, not yarn. Anyway, so I think these two books are gonna be really cool. And then when I was looking for them, this is A Pride of African Tales. And I don't know why it came up, but I got it because I think it looks like a fantastic book anyway. But it like specifically came up when I was looking about baskets. So we haven't really read it yet. And they look like, oh, maybe one of the stories is called The Wedding Basket. I don't know. But regardless, it looks like a book that we want to read anyway. So I grabbed it, but I don't know if it'll have anything that's related or not, but it looks really good. You know what? Can you even, I don't know. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that. Okay. Okay, so now we're moving kind of into personal education, like my education, not really homeschool education, right? So I am still working through some School of Sweet Georgia stuff. I watched quite a few videos this week. When I'm dyeing, in the basement, there's so much downtime. I usually end up playing a game or something while watching listening to a video. Our video games and stuff are all in the basement, and I don't hang out down there often. So it's like the only time I play games down there. Anyway, I know there was a reason I was talking. Oh, I watched some of those videos. And I'm kind of getting into more complex color combinations and color theory stuff. Still haven't really looked into natural dye garden. May not do that this year since I already went overboard, but we'll see. I'll have a clearer picture when I plan based on planting times, but that'll either work for or against me. Anyway, so I got this book. I want to work through the Certificate of Excellence in Hand Spinning from the Handweavers Guild of America. And I got this book. I talked about it last time. It was coming in the mail. And this gives you all the guidelines for the samples you need to complete. And it's interesting. So you have different kinds of assignments and things you need to do. So you have level 1 has 3 different parts. So there's a part in design, there's a part in equipment and fibers, and then a part about hand spinning techniques. So you have written materials with illustrations and photographs, some hand spun samples, but there are parts like you have to define certain things with, let's see if I can get to it. So you have to define certain terms and sentences, briefly describe things in respect to color, certain terms in respect to color and color schemes. And then, you know, kind of discuss the way you would plan to spin for a certain standard or a certain yarn. So yeah, and then equipment and fiber, you have to describe these equipments. You have to do samples with different types of spindles, which I'm excited about because I don't have experience with any supported spindles. I don't have wheel driven spindles. I do have drop spindle, and then I have a double drive wheel, but it can be in single drive Scotch tension. So I actually have both of those. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think this will be a really nice way to explore spinning and to make smaller samples in kind of a guided, supported way instead of creating the curriculum or study guide myself. And I definitely, if I work through all the material, I'm going to do the certification process. I also am going to get these books were about $15, I think. Sorry, I keep hiccuping. But there's a dyeing one, hand spinning, weaving, and basket weaving. So I want to get the weaving and the dyeing one, and I think these are really nice. I really work well with a guide, and it tells me what I've learned and what I still need to learn, and I don't miss things, and my brain loses information all the time. That is the nature of ADHD. Well, that is a problem a lot of people with ADHD struggle with, is short-term memory loss. And so a guide like this is really helpful for me. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to kind of lay out a plan and how I want to work through the content. I don't think I'll do all of part one because a lot of part one is definitions and stuff like that, and I can move to some of the spinning samples. Those can be worked at the same time as some of the other exploration stuff. So I'm going to look through it and see what kind of makes sense, but I'm excited about that. All right, my next book is, I'm revisiting this. I did not read at all the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks leading up to the last podcast. But I talked about this book the first time, and it is called You Won't Believe What Happened to Lacey by Amber Ruffin and Lacey Lamar. They are sisters. Amber Ruffin is a writer on the Seth Meyers show, and Lacey is her sister. She works in Omaha and has had a slew of different administration jobs. She's worked in nursing homes. Where else did she? Office, different office settings, so lots of different places. This was such a powerful book. This, I also should explain, this was a book that I think it's a new, actually, I should look at that. Is it a newer book? Because it was on display. I didn't know anything about it. All right. I'm not up to date on like anything. So I don't, 2021. Yeah, so this is a newer book, and it was on display at our library. When I have kids with me, I don't have a ton of time to just browse the library. Now, I could set boundaries and have them wait for me. I understand that completely, but it's not worth it, and I don't think that that's something they need to be doing. Mainly because there are 2 locations in our library that have books on display, and I always find enough books to come home with from those 2 sections. So it's never a problem. And if I need a specific book, I'll look it up online and place a hold. And I do that a lot for our homeschool books and stuff like that. But this was a book that was on display just, I think, because it was new. And it's fantastic. I just saw it and thought, it says at the bottom, Crazy Stories About Racism. So I knew exactly what it was about. Going into it, it was very well designed. They organized the stories really well. One thing I really liked about it but so they did, they kind of eased you into the stories, to be quite blunt. But what was so powerful about this book for me was the fact that these are stories predominantly happening to one people. So it's a really good illustration of the slew of comments that are being made to one person and how much they have to wade through. And that was my main takeaway the last time I talked about this. And now my perspective is totally flipped. So now there was just a point in the book where it started telling stories that happened to her as a kid from other adults. And it took a different meaning, right? The way that Black children are treated as adults and not children. And it now is the dominating feeling or takeaway for me. And so she told some stories when she was a kid, and it was, as I said last time, I was equally horrified at times of this book and absolutely hysterically laughing, because they're not all evil stories. And I think that's what is tricky when you talk about racism, is these small things that happen that are ignored. And I think this book does a really good job of putting those on the forefront and talking about those. And some of the stories are just downright funny. You're like, how is this person so stupid? And not the person that is getting racist things said to them. Obviously, the other people, like, they'll be talking and they're like, how can somebody think that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't, that makes no sense. So I wouldn't say a dark book at all. I would say that it's also written in a way where they go back and forth between the sisters' like point of view, and it's like they're talking to each other. So it's just, you get the feeling of them as sisters too. And I loved it. It was such a great book. I got it. I devoured most of it before I talked about it the first time. And then I just have on and off aversions to reading, which I love, and it's sad after grad school. And that is what happened. Anyway, so yeah, that was a really great book. Okay, the next book I am currently reading is The Explosive Child, A New Understanding and Parenting. I don't know if I typed this out right. A New Understanding and Parenting Easily Frustrated, Chronically Inflexible Children. And it's by Dr. Ross W. Greene. It is a gentle parenting approach, which I really like. I really like that meme that talks about gentle parenting. And it's like, isn't it wild that gentle parenting gets the backlash that it does? It's just a group of parents collectively deciding to talk to our children with respect, like they're real people, and people are losing their mind over it. And that's exactly how I feel. But it's a great point of view. There are so many fantastic points. I have so many notes on this too, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be looking down. The first thing is that challenging kids are challenging because they're lacking the skills to not be challenging. And those sets of skills are flexibility, adaptability, and frustration tolerance, and the ability to problem solve on the spot, which is the tricky part. And we know, so then this behavior is only occurring when the situation around them is outweighing the need or the ability they have to deal with it. When they're asked to be flexible and, and again, this is about chronically inflexible children. So changing activities from, say you're doing a fun activity and you have to go do some school now. That transition is really hard for a lot of kids, and my oldest is like this. So I liked that, but just basically the idea so that the behavior is occurring when they are being asked to behave adaptively. And that is really interesting to me. And I think that I definitely see that in my parenting journey, but the idea that kids do well if they can. And how do we know this? We know this because they're not always hard to deal with. We know that there is something different about that situation. than all the other times that they're able to keep their temper and not explode. Let's see. Because doing well is preferable. Who wants to be in trouble? No kid wants to get in trouble. They always want to do well. They always want to be praised. And I think coming from that point of view of realizing there's something missing instead of, oh, my kid is just doing this to be annoying or to bother me or to whatever, is a really important paradigm shift. Let's see. And that the challenging behaviors of themselves are actually the least important thing to focus on when trying to fix these behaviors. What you need to focus on is what abilities that child has, what things in that moment they're struggling with, and how can I give them the tools so they can deal with the situation themselves and I don't have to parent. That's the whole goal. The whole goal of parenting is to help your children ease into the independence of being an adult and the weight of that. Whew, sorry, that was a little long-winded. Let's see what else I got. Yeah, and so this is actually a quote that I want to say. It says, if you believe that your kid isn't doing well because he doesn't want to, then you will be inclined to use conventional reward and punishment strategies aimed at making them want to do well. Punishment actually actually adds fuel to the fire. Your energy can be devoted far more productively towards collaborating with your child on solutions to the problem that are causing the challenging episodes. You and your child can be allies, not adversaries, partners, and not enemies. I think that sentiment alone perfectly encapsulates everything I think about parenting. And I think it's an amazing paradigm shift. We have taken a parenting course through Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. It is geared towards ADHD children. It is called The Incredible Years. They also have a school program that you can implement. I know you can do it in Columbus, that they have teachers, because I told my daughter's daycare class at the time about it and they implemented it. It's called the Dino program. But The Incredible Years, it's amazing, gentle parenting technique that has not been updated since the 70s because it works. And these are all the things that they're talking about. And my goal as a parent isn't to be the disciplinarian. It's to collaboratively work with my kids to figure out how we can do better as a group. So what does that do? First off, it makes them feel like they're not the only ones that are messing up. I absolutely and of course I'm not perfect at this, but I make a really good point when I yell at my kids or lose it to apologize and tell them, I'm sorry, I was over, and it's dual purpose. A, it makes me reflect on my own behavior, and B, it teaches them that adults make mistakes and they don't need to be perfect either because mom's not even perfect. So and then on top of that, it teaches them to collaborate with somebody and problem solve and work through it so that when they're an adult and they're struggling with something, they have the internal dialogue on how to figure out the solution to that because we worked through their problems like that so many times. So I'm teaching them how to internally do that by doing it externally. They are learning so much more when I can include them in the process. Also, I think it's extremely important for parents to learn how to be better parents from their children. I sent my son a text message the other day. They don't have cell phone service. It's our old iPhones when we upgraded, and they have Wi-Fi. So they text our family members, which has immensely helped with my daughter's reading. She has been fighting reading and hates doing sight words and all of it, but she will text people. And even my husband came home and he's like, man, I think her texting has really helped. And I'm like, you're right. And I love that you are identifying that it is an unconventional way for her to have learned that, but she's communicating with people and she's learning new words. Great. Check. But I was making a point. I'm sorry. I'm getting all fired up about being partners, learning from our kids. But my kid had when my kid is comfortable enough to come to me, and half the time, I tell you what, half the time I lose it and I'm like on their case about something, my son will calmly explain something to me, and I absolutely did not understand the situation most of the time. And that's so important, and being able to say, oh, I'm sorry, that was not an appropriate response. I didn't understand the situation. I also like doing that because it teaches your kid you can go from being angry to admitting you're wrong. I think that's also really important, is having our kids see their parents admit that they're wrong. I'm in a STEM field, so I am literally wrong way more than I'm right. So for me, it's bananas that people are so uninformed, but then don't, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so spacey today. It's so bananas to me that people are so uninformed, but then so convinced that they're not uninformed when the evidence is being handed to them. It's bananas. So, yeah, so I'm admitting I'm wrong. I'm collaborating with them. There's just a ton of lessons that can be learned from that are not talked about a lot, I think. And overall, I think there are more lessons that can be learned from this type of parenting, or more benefits to this type of parenting because of that. But I think that this is a simple paradigm shift that is exceptionally powerful when it comes to parenting our kids. Yeah, and like that, the other point I wrote down was that collaboration and working with people to solve problems, or working with people through disagreements. Where is that that's going to be useful in every aspect of their life. Relationships, jobs, any career they have is going to involve collaboration. So we are not only building relationships with our children, we're teaching them the skills for healthy relationships in the future. So they're not that maybe they see red flags before they start dating an abusive individual, because now they know what makes healthy relationships, and focusing on that. Anyway, I've rambled on way too much about this. It's a fantastic book. So far, I have read 2 chapters. I started the 3rd chapter. I think I'm about halfway through it, but I'm not done with it, so I'm not going to talk about that yet. I'll just keep things, at least for nonfiction books, chunked up like that. Okay? Okay, so the last book I have that I'm reading is called Bringing Up Race: How to Raise a Kind Child in a Prejudiced World by Uju Asika. And she is a Nigerian. She's a blogger. Her blog was like popular, I think, in 2010. And she has 2 boys, and they're in London, but I don't remember when she moved there personally. I think she grew up in London and maybe Nigeria, but I would have to look that up. I think this was it's so good so far. It's really easy to read. I don't know, it's kind of just like somebody talking to you. I really, really like it. I'm way further than this. I just moved to the digital copy because the digital copy I can highlight, and then I can look at all my highlights in one spot. So when I come to do the podcast, it's all like in a row, and I can just go and look at all those. So I kind of like that, and I might keep that system. But then I want to point out that I looked up how to pronounce her name, Uju. Asika, I got correct, but I didn't want to mess up Uju. But she, in this book, of course, talks about the importance of pronunciation and how we can learn everybody's name, even if it is a name that is not familiar to us. And it made me think of a story from You Won't Believe What Happened to Lacey. One of the stories, it was about her friend, and he was also, I don't know if he was Nigerian. I don't know why I want to say that, but I'd have to look that up. Anyway, he had a different name, a name that she did not know. And this woman was like making a big deal about the fact that she couldn't say it, and like was laughing and like just wouldn't drop it. Instead of just saying, could you repeat that, or could you help me learn to pronounce this? And the girl said, yeah, it's almost like that. It like laughed as well and said, it's almost like that crazy word in Mary Poppins without a beat. Of course, she could say supercalifragilistic. Whoa, I can't. Supercalifragilistic. No, nope. I don't got it, guys. But this girl did without a beat. And of course, the girl, Lacey, was like, okay, well, if you can say that, you can learn this person's name. That's ridiculous. And that's absolutely the case. But anyway, so Uju Asika, she used the term third culture kid, which I had never heard and had to look up. And it's a child that is raised in a culture outside of their nationality, or their parents' nationality. And I thought that was interesting. I did not know what that was. This book also started off strong with the stuff happening to children. And yeah, so one of the very first things she talks about, this one's a quote I want to read. It says, "My early encounters with racism were minor compared to what my older sister went through. As the first Black girl at our boarding school, she was once tied to a chair by fellow pupils hurling racial insults at her. She was 6 years old." Yeah, so it just started right in with that, and it hits home differently. Thinking of a 6-year-old tied to a chair at all. And the end of story is disgusting. But then you add this whole other disgusting layer to it. So then there was a quote that I really, really liked, and it said, "There's nothing more urgent than bringing up our kids to think globally, fairly, with empathy for their fellow humans. We need to be responsible for raising a generation of people who are more open, more tolerant, and less afraid." And I love that. I liked how she would, I just liked her descriptor words. We need to raise children to be globally, to think globally, fairly, and with empathy for fellow humans. And honestly, that is such, when I complain about how other adults treat people and how other adults behave, that's what I'm talking about. Not being able to think globally and big picture. Half the things I hear politically, I'm like, well, if you just zoomed out a little bit, it makes sense. Like, you could see some of these systemic patterns, but you're looking too zoomed in to see the whole picture. So I really liked that, thinking globally and compassionately and fairly. I really liked that a lot. Let's see, another phrase she used that I thought was great. She was talking about how we are all a compendium of genes we inherit. The places we visit, the people we move with, the ones we fall in love with, the ones we give birth to. There is no single story to the way we look, sound, or interact. This is an important reminder for me. I very much struggle, as I said earlier, with perfectionism and everything being a certain way. So yeah, I mean, that is hard for me to accept, not accept other views, but to, it's more like, okay, so I'm in math. Like, there's one way you solve these problems. Well, most of the time, there's a right way to solve these problems, right? And then a lot of wrong answers. And so the world is very black and white for me. And that isn't how the world is. And noticing those shades of gray, I think that's been like the biggest lesson of becoming an adult for me, is just that it's not things aren't cut and dry. So I thought that was a great reminder, talking about how colorblindness silences meaningful conversations about race. Absolutely. When you teach your child that everyone is equal, it minimizes the struggle of minorities and disadvantaged people. Accent bias. This wasn't actually discussed. I'm sure it will be. But she made a comment about how she has been congratulated for her British accent and how nobody... It's snowed here. My dining room is directly in front of me, and and there's a window directly on that wall, and like a bunch of snow just hit the window. I don't know if it fell from the roof. I don't know. Sorry, guys. Anyway, accent bias. So she was talking about how she was congratulated on her British accent, saying that you couldn't even tell she was a foreigner. And she didn't go into anything about this. It was just a story she was telling, actually to illustrate a different point, I think. But it made me start thinking, and I don't even know if you can find this, but Jasmine from Knitmore Girls had recently talked about accent bias in relation to her mom, and just about accent bias and what's palatable and how people treat other adults with different accents. And I tell you what, this was one of those hard truths that I had to look at myself and address in the past. We lived in a community where everybody was international PhD students with children. We were in family housing at Ohio State for 8 years. And these are literally probably the smartest group of people, population that I will ever be a part of. And realizing that when you hear someone speaking with a heavy accent, that culturally we've been conditioned to think that they're less intelligent than us or slower than us because they're not maybe not understanding what we're saying because it's not their first language, or just a slew of reasons. And I think, this absolutely is one that I feel like I had to unlearn. So that one really struck home for me. That story really struck home for me, but she talked about it recently, which is also what put it on my radar. But that's definitely a thing, accent bias, and how like a British accent is posh and proper, and a Middle Eastern accent is not. It's viewed differently and treated differently. And being aware of that and just aware of that bias. I could totally pretend like this didn't happen, but I absolutely recorded a video clip saying, I haven't read this book all week and I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm full of it because I definitely have notes. So this is Give People Money by Annie Lowrey. It's how a universal basic income would end poverty, revolutionize work, and remake the world. All of the books I'm reading were on display at my library. These were like the librarian choice books. Which I love when someone tells me what to read. That's great. I didn't have to make a decision. I just browse a handful of like new books and other books, and I hear my children yelling. Well, I hear one of them yelling. Anyway, so this one was on, it was because the month of January was about poverty. And so I grabbed a bunch of those books. And what I really like about our library is that theme goes throughout the whole library. So each month they have a theme, and the books on display in the kids section follow the theme as well. So I can do a unit study myself and get unit study books for my kids at the same time. And I'm going to show you a few of the books we got because they look really good and I think we're going to use them. But anyway, so Give People Money. Last time I told you I really don't know where I stand on this. The whole first chapter was kind of about self-driving cars and how that would change things and just technological advancement. There were a few pieces of information that I thought was interesting. So one of the things that is changing is that up until now, humans were the only ones that were makers of technological advancement. But now we have all these AI learning bots. And there was a story about these AI learning bots that created shorthand language. And so this chapter was talking about the advancements in learning technology and what will that mean for the future of human jobs and the future of our lives. They didn't, again, get into too much about that. That was just an interesting story. I thought that's fascinating. Robots that literally create their own shorthand language and consistently use it with another robot. Like, that is really cool. Then a kind of startling piece of information is that researchers believe that there is a 50% chance of AI outperforming humans in all tasks in 45 years. And of automating all human jobs in 120 years. So one of the arguments for universal basic income is that we are going to have the technological era has started, and it is going to be as different as as big of a change as the Industrial Revolution or the Agricultural Revolution was. And that part of that is that human jobs will be replaced. And so that's part of the argument in moving towards that direction is, listen guys, technology is heading in this direction already rapidly. And what are we going to do about it? And like I said, that's the view of what I'm reading. But that was some startling information, and it does make you wonder, are we being forward thinking enough in what the technology is going to do to our future? And then the last thing this I thought was interesting. Universal basic income in history. It talked about 2 different instances, both sides in our country, America. I'm in America, guys. Both countries, both sides of the political party, both sides of the political spectrum have proposed this. But do you want to know why it lost popularity? Universal basic income lost popularity on both sides because it was identified that it could increase divorce rates. Which sounds ridiculously medieval now, right? Like, couldn't we be more concerned about healthy marriages that don't and fixing toxic marriages instead of worrying about if the divorce rate is going to rise if women can support themselves? But it just seems so medieval to me now, and how marriages and divorce, or how divorce is associated with morality. Anyway, interesting points. I didn't get a ton of more information for this week because I was halfway through the first chapter when I finished talking last time. So I only had like half a chapter to talk about. And then I hit a stopping point and was like, okay, I'll pick this up later. I didn't, so that's great. Yeah, so let me really quickly talk about these kids' books real quick that I found that I want to talk about. And these were also all on display, so I grabbed them and they're good. So we have The Slave Trade in America, Cruel Commerce. We have Shelter, Homelessness in Our Community. This is a pretty thick book. It says homelessness is not a choice, but it exists in almost every community. Why are people homeless? Who are they? And what can you do about it? It looks like a really good book. It talks about housing funds. It talks about a lot of stuff. 28 Days, Moments in Black History That Changed the World. This is up on from our last library book. We haven't read these yet. This is a whole stack of books. Are books I'm like using but haven't planned anything yet. John Lewis in the Lead, A Story of the Civil Rights Movement. I'm really excited about this book. Not that I'm less excited about the others. And Giant Steps to Change the World. I think that's it. I think those are all the books I got that are like school books along with the basket books. I'm really excited to explore those with the kids. The modern baskets are so cool. Lastly, I do want to do I thanked Needles at the Ready. I don't think I thanked Chevyrell. I think I just started talking about how I'm stealing her basket idea for a homeschool lesson. But I do thank her. She was exceptionally kind, and I like bombarded her by sending messages. Here's the problem, guys. I was trying to beat a snowstorm when I was shipping these packages, and so I didn't put anything in the package with the yarn except business cards. Shipped them, came home, and sent emails. Well, with all the information. And in my head, that made sense. But holy crap, how rude is it to get a package with yarn and business cards? Like, who is this person? Anyway, so I like obsessively was like, you probably sent this to the wrong email address. Just send it to her in the other account. So she was exceptionally gracious too. But another podcast I found, and I need to thank I also need to thank Aquila, the lefty knitter, for A, what I'm about to tell you, and B, for also taking giveaway yarn for her viewers. But she recommended the black knitter. Her name is Liz. I'm pretty sure. If I am getting it wrong, I apologize. I'm gonna link below, don't worry. I love her. I've watched, she has 7 episodes. I think the last one was number 7 when I watched. And I've only watched the latest 2. So she's a new podcast for me. And she started in talking about her work with the United Methodist Church too. And she has a really cool other YouTube page with Sunday school lessons that I watched and loved. So far, I have watched, in one day, I watched her latest episode and then her latest Sunday school lesson. And out of both of them, I had a book from each onto my new wish list. So I love her, and I realize that she has more subscribers than I do. But if one of you even goes to her, good, because she's wonderful. Yeah, and other than that, I think that's all I've got. It's been a really busy 2 weeks. We've really been trying to socialize, and I don't really know. The only thing that we have coming up, my husband has a concert tonight, so I think I said I was gonna sit on the couch with a beer instead of in person. But we're gonna watch that. We have ice skates. We got our ice skates in finally. They were like just delayed. So we're gonna do that. And other than that, we just have our regular homeschool stuff. So it's just waiting out winter in Michigan. But I hope you guys have a great 2 weeks, and I'll see you next time.